pre-Islamic Bahrain. During the pre-Islamic era of Bahrain's history, which is circa the beginning of the 4th millennium BC until the 7th century AD, Dilmun, which was Bahrain's oldest known name, was first mentioned in Sumerian clay tablets around the 4th millennium BC in the Sumerian city of Urk, which is in Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq. In those records were trade data dealing with goods and supplies brought from Dilmun. Dilmun was considered a trading hub at the time as it was strategically located between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Trade flourished during this time and had led to prosperous development of the island. Known items that had been exchanged included timber, dates, pearl, which was called fish eyes at the time, ivory, lapis lazuli, which was a precious gem, gold, and other materials. It is also believed that Dilmun was heavily involved in trade with the Magan culture, which is present-day Oman. Literary references to Meluhan trade date from the Akkadian, the 3rd dynasty of Ur, and the Isin Larsa period, which is circa 2350 to 1800 BC. But the trade probably started in the early dynastic period, which is circa 2600 BC. Some Meluhan vessels may have sailed directly to Mesopotamian ports, but by the Isin Larsa period, Dilmun had monopolized the trade. The local National Museum here says that the Golden Age was supposedly lasted between circa 2200 to 1600 BC. Dilmun was very much mentioned when it had come to Sumerian mythology. Dilmun is described as in the epic story of Enki and Ninhursag as the site where the creation occurs. Ninlil, which is the Sumerian goddess of air and south wind, made her home in Dilmun. It was also featured in the epic of Gilgamesh. The story of Gilgamesh, which is popular with many locals here, is of the man called Gilgamesh, who is in search of a flower that is said to have granted immortality to those who consume it. This flower is said to have only grown in Dilmun, which was at the time full of freshwater springs. Anyways, Gilgamesh finally found the flower after searching day and night for it. Once he had found it, he decided to rest up in the springs because it was an excruciating adventure. While he was bathing, a snake had emerged and ate that flower. It sort of had a life story attached to it. Persian and Hellenic control. From around the 6th century BC to the 3rd century BC, Bahrain had been conquered by the Persian Empire, then ruled by the Achaemenians dynasty. This is during the wave of expansionism that had ensued the region due to Persian dominance in the region at the time. At the time of the 3rd century BC, Bahrain had been discovered or captured by an officer of Alexander the Great. The officer was Nearchus, who lived from 360 to 300 BC. He was a Navarach in Alexander's army during an expedition to India. The Greeks had renamed Dilmun as Tylos, believed to relate to the pearls and oysters located there. The Greek admiral Nearchus is believed to have been the first of Alexander's commanders to have visited the island, and he found a verdant land that was a part of a wide trading network. He recorded that, quote, that in the island of Tylos, situated in the Persian Gulf, are large plantations of cotton tree, from which are manufactured clothes called sindons, of very different degrees of value, some being costly, others being less expensive. The use of these is not confined to India and extends to Arabia. The Greek historian Theophrastus states that much of the island was covered in these cotton trees, and Tylos was famous in exporting walking canes engraved with emblems which were customarily carried in Babylon. It is unclear whether Bahrain had been a part of the Seleucid Empire, although recent excavation has shown support for this idea. Alexander had planned to settle the eastern shores of the Persian Gulf with Greek colonists, and although it is not clear that this happened on the scale he envisioned, Tylos was very much part of the Hellenized world. The language of the upper class was Greek, although Aramaic was still used. Zeus was worshipped in the form of the Arabian sun god Shams. Tylos even became the site of Greek athletic contests, as some sources say. Ancient Greeks at the time speculated whether the Phoenicians were descended from the inhabitants of Tylos, citing the naming similarity between Tylos and Tyre as a factor. Another one is that the Phoenicians were known to have maintained their Persian Gulf heritage throughout their existence. Now, with the waning of the Seleucid Greek power, Tylos was incorporated into Characene and Messenian, the state which is present-day Kuwait, by Hyspaosines in 127 BC. A building inscription found in Bahrain indicates that Hyspaosines occupied the islands, and from the 3rd century BC until the arrival of Islam in the 7th century AD, Bahrain was controlled by two other Iranian dynasties, by the likes of the Parthians and the Sassanids. By about 250 BC, the Seleucids had lost their territories to the Parthians, who were an Iranian tribe from Central Asia. The Parthian dynasty brought the entire Persian Gulf under their control, and their influence extended as far south as Oman. Because they needed to control the Persian trade route, the Parthians established garrisons along the entire southern coast of the Persian Gulf. Now, this control was thought to have lasted until the 3rd century AD, where the Sassanids overcame the Parthians and had taken over the land. The ruler of the Sassanid dynasty had moved into the Bahrain region to capture it from the Parthian governor, whose name was Sanatruk. Later, a ruler called Shapur I was appointed as the governor of Bahrain, who is said to have constructed vast cities and improved the infrastructure of the island beyond recognition. By this time, Tylos, which is the old Hellenic name given to Bahrain, has been renamed Mishmahig, which is a Middle Persian word which means ewe fish, presumably due to the abundance of fish there. However, some historians believe that the name ewe fish would appear to suggest that Tylos is related to the Hebrew word which means lamp. During the advent of the 1st millennium AD, Bahrain, which was predominantly pagan throughout its whole history, has developed a Christian community which is believed to have followed the Nestorianism doctrine of Christianity. In fact, a village in Bahrain called Samahij was once the seat of bishops from all over the Persian Gulf. After Persian influence had waned on the island was later renamed as Awal by its pagan tribes, who were very powerful at the time. Awal was believed to be the name of the ox deity that many pagan tribes had worshipped at the time. Although there's some speculation about the meaning of the name, some say that Awal means first, Awal which in Arabic translates as first or previous, Awalan which also means firstly or at first, Awali which also means primordial or original. Awal has also meant the best in many Indian languages. Similarly, the deity Awal of Bahrain appears to be very similar to the deity Nandi of the Hindus. Indus Valley civilization also had a deity which was very similar to the ox, so we could speculate that there was some relation between them. It also suggests that there had been many religious and cultural links between the two cultures. In the end, Awal has been the last name given to Bahrain prior to the rise of Islam in the region. Afterwards, it has been known as Bahrain for the next 1,400 years, and it is still known until the present day. This has been Muhammad the Persian, and I thank you for listening.